Good morning, good afternoon, good evening YouTubes, and how is everybody today? I hope you're all well. Just out for a little spin on the trusty rusty thing of beauty that is the 250RS, and I thought I'd chuck the camera on. I had to stop at Tesco's and fill up with some soup run lady, because last time I was out with Roy I had to put normal fuel in because we couldn't find any soup there, so I put that in. And by the way, I'm just passing I can't remember what it's called. I'm heading to Bourton Aleph, which is just outside of Ashford. See this wall here, as you can see, someone has told me it's the longest, I was going to say continuous, but there was a fucking gap there, so that's already a lie. It's the longest boundary wall, brick wall in the UK. What's it called? Eastwell Manor. There you go, Eastwell Manor. Longest continuous boundary wall, which is obviously my interesting fact of the day, which isn't interesting, and it's probably not even a fact. So yeah, should I cut that out? Nah, you know me, I'll give it as it goes. Ooh, what's this? It's a Zim Zimmer keys to his bimmer. Could have put some gloves on, mate. Not being funny, but we all fell off as a kid on our push bikes. You know, freedom to wear what you want to wear, but it's quite a quick bike to be wearing nothing on your hands. It's not even a warm day. What's that, a warm day? It's about 14 degrees when I left. Yeah, look, big brick wall. Yeah, about 14 degrees when I left. So I've gone for, as you can probably see in the mirror, summer kit. Well, spring kit. Summer kit would be a lightweight vented jacket, but yeah, spring kit, jeans, and sort of summerish gloves. They are vented, but I have got a thermal top on. It's a bit of a nod to winter. Oh, there's no brick wall there at all now. I've been stitched up. I know the wall does continue up here, but anyway, how is everybody? I hope you're well. Oh, there you go, more wall. Yeah, I'll let you keep an eye on that. If you're really bored, you can see how long the wall goes on for. It is miles, and that's just along the side of the road. But yeah, today's chat, I was sitting at home thinking, what should I waffle about? So I jumped on the bike to head out, and I thought I'll waffle about a couple of things on my old job, because a few people quite like that. I've had a few messages from people, and there's obviously at least one person that was in a similar line of work, because they've made comments that show that they've either got some experience or they know someone that did, if that makes sense. But yeah, sort of funny tales, and I was sort of racking my brains thinking about what funny tales I could say. But one that came to mind, which I say was funny, it wasn't very funny at the time. Oh, come on, mate, in your blooming van. What are we doing, 30 miles an hour? Can't be that slow, surely. Was, yeah, we were following a bad guy, naughty man, and he was wandering down a road, and I've got the eyeball, so I'm the foot unit that's basically watching him and talking at the same time, sort of thing. And generally speaking, I'm not going to go into positioning, but at this point I was behind him on the same side of the road as we were wandering along, and he's a little way in front of me, and all of a sudden he stops and he spins on his heels and starts walking back towards me. Now he's a fair distance away from me, so it's not an immediate issue. So obviously I've given that over the air, you know, reciprocal, and the fact that I'm going to have to take cover, and I pass what looked to be a you know, like a drop-in centre for OAPs, those buildings with big glass windows and lots of white wood panelling on. There's nothing written on it, and I thought it just looked like a you know, these sort of daycare centres, drop-in centres or whatever. So I wander up, try the door, it was open, so in I wander, and I'm looking at the notice boards and thinking, that's a bit odd. The place we were wasn't well known for having lots of Arabic speakers, and most of the notice board was in Arabic, with the odd bit of English. I glanced down to the floor, and there were dozens and dozens of pairs of shoes. And you probably know where this is going now, because it suddenly dawned on me that I was actually in a mosque. and I peered through one of the windows to see people at prayer. Now obviously no one came out, thankfully, because that would have taken a bit of explaining. I'm sure they'd have been supportive had they known what I was doing, but it's that whole conversation that you really don't want to have, and you really don't want to offend anybody or anyone to get the hump. And our guy's wandering slowly back down the road, and I'm just thinking, for fuck's sake mate, hurry up, because all I want to do is get out of there before anybody wanders out and says, can I help you? Because I certainly wasn't there to pray. Luckily he did wander past, and I could escape and do a bit of a runner. So yeah, that was a bit of a funny one. I once took a barrier off at the Dartford crossing. That was quite a funny day. I had my boss in the car with me. He came out for the day, and we were following a car using various kit, and that day was a very, very small team, and the kit we were using relied on vectors. If anyone knows what I'm talking about, they know what I mean. And usually you'd use a couple of trucking cars, but we only had one, which meant that a conventional car, a normal car, would have to get close to the subject at every junction to see which way they went, because the vectors sometimes just literally flip, in direction. That's basically it. And anyway, we're going towards the Dartford crossing and the exit, and as we came towards the crossing we had a lot of ground to make up. The guy was already through the barriers by the numbers, he was already through the barriers. And we used to have dart tags, if anyone remembers them. If you remember when you had barriers at the Dartford crossing, we had dart tags. You pull it out of the glove box, hold it on the screen, and you could gauge your speed as you went towards the crossing, and then the tag would get recognised, you get a little beep and the barrier would lift, so you could actually go through it without stopping. But the trick was how fast you could go through it without stopping. Anyway, on this particular day we are flat out driving like you stole it to try and catch up with this fella to give a direction, because you're towards some quite major junctions at this point, and being a small team it was a bit of a, not a panic, but we really needed to know where we went, because otherwise the team were going to be bomb burst everywhere until the kit told us the direction. So we're flying towards this barrier in a clear lane, and I swear I heard a beep. Well, quite obviously I didn't, because the barrier didn't budge, and we went through it at whatever speed it was obviously too fast, because the barrier hadn't lifted. And there was this ping of a foam barrier off the front of the bonnet, off the windscreen, and flying over the roof of the car. And I looked in the mirror to see it bouncing down the road behind us. I was like, oh shit. And my boss is like, oh, for fuck's sake. And I said, oh fuck, I better stop. He went, no, fuck it, go, go, go. So we just carried on, and he then had to phone the local police and say, you're probably going to get a phone call from the Dartford crossing about a vehicle that has just taken the barrier off and driven straight through and hasn't stopped. Well, this is my ID and this is who we are, and it's all okay and we can sort it all out, sort of thing. Which is what happened. I never heard another word about it. But then that was a good boss. The fellow we had then, absolute top bloke. He didn't suffer fools gladly. You worked hard for him and you get the same back in return, and he would support you 100%, which he did on a few occasions for a few people that maybe not found themselves in the shit, that would be the wrong way of describing it, but maybe had some issues that needed sorting out. He was spot on. It's telling me to turn left here. I've never been down this road before. Genuinely never been down this road before. I say that sometimes, and then when I get to it I go, ah yeah, I know where I am now. But this is a new one on me. Yeah, I'm doing the old TomTom Go Ride again, which I've settled on as my favourite app, because you just pick a direction, pick a distance, and then hit calculate, and if you don't quite like the look of it, I mean, for example, I did a couple today and it was taking me down some quite main roads, so I just hit recalculate about 3 or 4 times until it sent me a route that I didn't recognise, which is this one. I know the bit back there, but not this bit. So yeah, Tom Go Ride, give it a go. I'm not going to say his name, obviously. Well, he had a nickname, but I'm still not going to say that. But yeah, top bloke. And then another story. Let's say a story. I was going to start talking about some of the personalities that you get on surveillance teams, because surveillance teams tend to be made up of people with very strong personalities, and quite often they clash, and everybody is pretty much highly competitive, and it is a very sort of high pressure competitive environment. Let's just roll past this pup here. Could have said thank you. Oh well, manners cost nothing. Yeah, it is quite a high pressure environment because of the stakes and the risks involved and what have you, and it is very difficult to get into. I'm turning right, Parsonage Stocks Road. Okay, well, this is a nice little track, this nice little road. But yeah, one of the guys, and I'll use his nickname was Marcel. Good old Marcel, top bloke. Marcel, not his real name, obviously. He came to the team from a firearms unit, one of the gun cunts as we used to call them. You know, if they're doing a strike and they pass a mirror, they all get held up for a couple of minutes just to make sure they're looking good, that sort of thing. But yeah, Marcel. And he got the nickname Marcel was because we had a job on. I was on the bike, as always, and I can't remember why, but I think we'd had a loss that I'd recovered, and the team were miles away from me, absolutely fucking miles away, because they're all in cars, stuck in traffic. So there's not a lot they can do about that, and they're all trying the hardest they can to get to me. But it just meant that when the vehicle stopped and the bloke got out of it, I basically had the eyeball on the bike. Now he went into a property, so that was okay, because I can control that on the bike. I can park in a bit of traffic and use whatever props I might have available to me to just sit there for a while. Anyway, Marcel was, he might have been in his probation then. When you came to our unit, you had 6 months probation, and if you didn't pass your probation, you got returned to your unit. You know, it was quite harsh. But yeah, Marcel was the first person there. So I'm chatting to him on the radio, making sure that he's in a position that he's comfortable with to take the visual from me, and he's sort of like sticking his thumb up and doing hand signals. Now there are hand signals as part of a surveillance, I suppose glossary for want of a better word, but surveillance communications, there are hand signals that can be used, but these were like in a position. And instead of hitting the presser and saying yes or whatever, he was sticking his thumb up, and he was doing various hand signals and nods and nods and winks sort of thing. And in the debrief at the end of the day, I was asking him about, I said, mate, you can use the fucking radio sort of thing. And one of the other guys who was there, he went fucking hell, that's like Marcel Marceau, the French mime artist. And anyway, where are we going? Turn right. So he started getting called Marcel. Now the thing about nicknames, as I'm sure a lot of you will know, is they don't generally stick unless the person who has been given the nickname makes a big song and dance about it or doesn't like it. Well, Marcel, he fucking hated being called Marcel, so obviously Marcel stuck. I don't know whether it's still there. It still does stick, probably not. That was a few years back now, 4 years ago maybe even longer than that, I don't know. But yeah, Marcel. Anyway, Marcel, he used to go to briefings, firearms briefings, with all the lads, with the old fake tan and gym membership, protein shakes and what have you. And in the briefings, he'd always make himself a brew, and he'd have a little pot of biscuits that he brought in from home. And quite often he'd sit down with his brew and then he'd go for a quick piss before the briefing, come home and his biscuits would be gone. The other lads had eaten them. So anyway, this happened a couple of times. Now Marcel was well known for a good stitch up. This happened a couple of times. This is a nice little lane. I love riding these lanes on this bike. Fucking brilliant. Anyway, so this happened a few times to Marcel, and obviously got pissed off with it, as you would. You know, when you haven't got your custard cream or your whatever with your coffee, you know, it's a bit annoying. So anyway, one day he rocks up to the briefing with his biscuits in the pot, opens the pot, has his coffee, goes off for a piss, comes back, biscuits are gone. So he sits there, he pulls his phone out and he swipes to his camera roll and starts swiping through images on his phone of the pot of biscuits that he had, with each biscuit jammed up his arse crack and him rubbing them in his butt and then popping them back in the pot, and obviously was swiping these pictures for everybody to see, which is a fucking classic. Needless to say, his biscuits didn't go missing again, but yeah, that was one of the sort of things that that people used to get up to. Another one we did was one lad who went off to do other stuff with even higher security clearance. Really good lad, actually. He went off to do other things. He was well known for snoozing in his car. So one day someone came in with some tape, and while he was asleep we taped the doors up on his car. Now he was the initial foot, which means that when the bad guy walks out of his house, you're the person that jumps out of your car or goes, you know, for wherever you might have been tucked away, and your responsibility is to get control of that person straight away before you lose them, because obviously they could get in a car, they could hail a cab, they could do lots of different stuff, you know, tube stations, you name it. So anyway, he was the initial foot. Now via phone call everybody made arrangements that the next commentary over the air was going to be false, and then someone sat there with a camera to record him. And what happened was, obviously over the air it's stand by, stand by, stand by, you know, subject is out, away on foot, at which point this lad, you see him sit bolt upright in his car, grab the door handle, pull the door handle, and the door wouldn't open. And there was about 10 seconds of sheer panic as he's hammering on the door to get out. All the time he could hear the commentary in his ear of this bloke who's, you know, jogging away, and we're about to have a loss. So he's got a massive flap on because his car was taped up, and obviously we then, whoever was filming then started waving and realised it was a stitch. Another one, I've just remembered this one actually, and this is someone I'm still in contact with, very fond of him, top person, live abroad now, but we had some intel that there was going to be a meet in a lay-by, and this person had a van at the time, and the idea was to chuck the van in the lay-by with suitable props and cover the meet. And there was obviously a lot of pre-planning, a lot of stuff all set up to record it, and kit wherever you needed the kit, to make sure that we got as much intel out of that meet as we could. So anyway, this person, cheers mate, you didn't need to do that, thank you. This person rolls into the lay-by nice and early, starts getting the props out, and obviously the props were roadwork type props. Starts setting the props up, the barriers, the cones and what have you. Jump back in the van with everything set, all the cameras ready to roll. Subject's towards the lay-by. Subject chucks an indicator on, slows, indicator goes off, or away if you really want the right terminology, and continues off down the road. and everyone's thinking, what the fuck? Anyway, the next car along, unsuitable for heavy goods. Which way was that? Because that was right between the two. Next car along gets to the lay-by and realises that it's pretty much been fucking coned off, the whole lay-by, and there effectively wasn't enough room for our guy and the person he was meeting, so they drove off and we missed the whole meet. Yeah, because it had been coned off. Obviously that didn't go down very well because of all the prior planning that went into it, but it's reality. It's the sort of thing that happens, and it did give everybody a chuckle. After the event, it gave everybody a chuckle, and it's one of those things that obviously keeps getting mentioned whenever I message that person, or messages go up on you know, one of the group chats or wherever. That quite often comes up. But yeah, some really good sort of good times and good days. A lot of shit days as well, but sometimes it pays to remember the good days. Where are we now? We're still going. Anyway, ladies and gents, I say ladies and gents, no women watch this apart from my wife. So gents, you middle-aged men, most of which live in the UK, America, or the Far East, which was something that surprised me, who watch this with subtitles. 20% of people watch this with subtitles. Yeah, bizarre, eh? And one more thing, thanks to everybody that subscribed. Obviously this page isn't about subscribers, it's not about that sort of thing. It's just me waffling for future tales and stories for people to look back on when I'm long gone, that sort of thing, as you know. But I've got nearly 200 subscribers. What's all that about? 200 people watching this drivel. Maybe they just love the RS, and who can blame them, eh? Right, I'm going to sign off now, carry on with my ride. If you, as usual, if you're riding, stay safe. If you're not riding, watch crap videos on YouTube like this, and I will see you on the next trusty rusty adventure of RSing about on the thing of beauty that is the Honda CB250RS. Take care everybody, followed by the obligatory look in the mirror to see if the camera stops recording. I really should work out how to work this thing one day. Right, catch you soon, ta-da.